Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we'll be talking about the show Lessons in Chemistry. Fun fact, Sugar Hill was a real place in California, and just like in the show, it was occupied by black people who were doing pretty well for themselves. And the government decided to build the Santa Monica Freeway where this area was. This show came out in 2023 and stars Brie Larson, Louis Pullman, and Asia Naomi King and was created by Lee Eisenberg. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Lessons in Chemistry follows the brilliant chemist Elizabeth Zott, who longs to work in the male-dominated field of chemistry in the 60s. We see her journey of not only trying to be a chemist, but we also see what leads her to host her own feminist cooking show and how she ends up helping so many women. Lessons in Chemistry is a period drama. It has similar vibes to Dickinson, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, or The Queen's Gambit. Lessons in Chemistry is based off a book, and while I didn't read the book, even though I do have it, I was drawn in because I really do enjoy Brie Larson and Louis Pullman, so I decided to give it a try. Dramas for me, especially in like the TV show space, can be a hit or miss for me because sometimes I feel like they can be very slow and don't really pull me into the story. But with this show, it was an amazing little show that they put together and had me on the edge of my seat wanting to know what was going to happen at the end of each episode. Brie Larson was the perfect person to lead this show, and I love seeing her character's growth throughout the series from opening up to Calvin to having a child and learning how to become a great mom and an inspiration for so many women. I love cooking in general, and seeing her mix cooking with her knowledge of chemistry to perfect recipes was so smart to me, and I thought it was something that was just so cool to see on screen. Her cooking eventually leads her to get this show, and on that show, she gets to further show how good of a cook she is and some of the recipes she's perfected, but also explains why she is using certain things. And so she mixes the chemistry with the cooking on live TV, so the people that are watching her show also understand these things and understands that cooking is a science. While her show focuses on cooking, she also incorporates some feminist ideas into the show, which would have been frowned upon in that time period, but I'm glad that she decided to still add them in. We see her wearing pants instead of a dress. She's wearing a lab coat with no interest of being sexy and trying to appeal to male viewers. She gets Tampax to be her show sponsor. She talks about how hard it is to be a woman and adds in a line for the kids to set up the table so that their mom gets a break after hearing from a mom how tired she is. She encourages more women to chase their dreams even if they've been told that their place is home watching the house. We also see her use her platform to bring awareness to the racist attacks on her neighborhood and encourages people to go to a protest to help out those in need to stop the building of this freeway. I just love seeing these things because in the beginning of the show, she was just kind of annoyed that women would be interested in doing things that entertain men and would kind of judge them. But as the show progressed, we see that she finds a different way to explain that women have their own life and that they can do what they want with it. I love how they choose the right time to explain certain things that help you better to understand Elizabeth, because after the first episode, you may wonder why she acts the way she does, and we see the negative and positive throughout the show on why her attitude is the way that it is. In the beginning, she hates being in a room with a closed door with a man, which is not shocking to be honest, but we find out it's because she was raped by a professor when she was trying to get into a PhD program, which also explains why she only has a master's, because of instead of reprimanding this man for doing that, they wanted her to apologize for stabbing him with a pencil. And that also is part of the reason why you might notice throughout the show she carries a pencil behind her ear. She likes chemistry and is hesitant about religion because of her brother, who introduced her to chemistry and let her know what her preacher dad was doing wasn't some great religious miracle, but it was a scam, and her brother was using chemistry to help her dad fool people. We see that she doesn't talk to her parents due to them being a big reason why her brother kills himself, by them constantly trying to push him back into the closet, which led him to kill himself. And I also think that that is the reason why she is so closed off in general. After all that she's been through and all the women she's helped, I thought it was such a pleasant ending for her to complete a dream that she had put on hold in the beginning of the show due to the rape that she dealt with, as well as having a child, which was to get her PhD in chemistry. And it was just the perfect way to end the show, with her actually pursuing that dream of having her PhD and her, in her PhD program and teaching people about chemistry that are in undergrad. Lewis Pullman was fantastic as Calvin, who I feel like was perfect for Elizabeth, and probably one of the only white men in this show who was decent. He was kind of oblivious to what was going on in the world, but he didn't judge people by what they looked like or their background, and was really supportive of Elizabeth. I love how in the later episodes we learn more about his past and even his parents, and how even though he didn't care for religion, he became pen pals with someone studying religion, and they offered up different perspectives to different things and gave each other some good advice. It was sad that so many saw, how famous he was and how smart he was, and tried to take advantage of it by saying that they were his parents because he was an orphan, even though they weren't. And when his real mom was actually writing to him, it kind of got lost in the piles with the fakes, and she saved everything of his, but really never got to meet him because of all of the crap that he was getting. And he ended up just wanting to send cease and desist letters to everyone that was sending him stuff. It was even sadder that he never got to see what Elizabeth would accomplish, or even meet his own daughter, and like I said, his mom as well, because he ends up dying. It was one of the more shocking moments, because it was just like he was out for a run, and I didn't even realize that it was towards the end of the episode, but I was really rooting for him and Elizabeth's relationship, and then next thing you know, he gets hit and he's killed. And this was pretty early on in the season, and it was very shocking that they were not going to be able to complete a life together. And then to make things even worse, she finds a ring in his belongings indicating that he was planning on proposing, and then we also find out that Elizabeth is pregnant. So it was just a very shocking turn of events, but I think in the time that we had with Calvin, I did really enjoy his character. Mad was funny and independent, just like her mom. I'm glad that she wasn't afraid to ask questions to learn more about her father, which led her to find not only an old friend of his, but also her own grandmother. Harriet was brilliantly played by Asia Naomi King, and I just loved how her character was so set on making sure her neighborhood was protected, and did so while raising a family and still being so nice to everyone. I love how Calvin and Elizabeth had no one, and she really stepped up to be their family and helped them both through so many things, and she didn't really ask for much in return. Her story of working almost 10 years to stop the freeway from being built, only for one man to change his mind in the last minute, even though he said he would support not building it, is something that I feel like many black protesters have gone through throughout the years while trying to protect their communities and trying to do things in a peaceful way, and think that they're making headway only for someone, probably white and male, to come in and crush these dreams. Harriet knew the risk, but she was determined, and I love how she was willing to fight for what she believed in. I love seeing the part of the episode with the dog talking. It was sad to see his perspective, but then also made me wonder if our pets feel the sadness that we feel and what it would be like to be in their head. I feel like the 60s was the perfect setting for this show to display the things women and people of color go through and what they have to do to try to change their circumstances, even if it's difficult. Nearly every episode ended on a sad note, and while that could happen with a show set in modern times, it was partly because of the circumstances surrounding the time period and the situations that the characters were dealt. There's a quote towards the end of the show that stood out to me, which is, think of your life. You can't anticipate the moments. It's only when you look backwards when you see how it's all connected, which was one of my favorite moments because, as cliche as it sounds, things happen for a reason, and as much as you may want to change the things in the past, you really can't. And some good things come out of that and some bad, but you will look back on your life and you can see this invisible string that connects it all. I try to live my life without regretting too much of what goes on or what happened in the past, because it's something that I can't change. And so I think that's why I love this quote so much, because it kind of made me think about how I try to live my life. And it's kind of something that I feel like Elizabeth kind of realizes at the end of the show, is that unfortunately you can't change what happened in the past. So you kind of have to just keep moving forward and make the best out of the situations that have been dealt to you. My favorite part of this show is when we see a flashback of Calvin reading Great Expectations, and we see Elizabeth asking him why does he read the book over and over again, because the book doesn't change. Calvin tells her to look at it from a different angle and explains that the book doesn't change, but the person that is reading it does. As a person who re-watches and rereads a lot of stuff, I connected to that because I may have seen something 50 times, but because of how I changed from the last time, whether that be minor or major, I notice something different or interpret something differently when I'm digesting the media. I think in this show it's important too because it shows that people grow and change. And I think Elizabeth connects this to chemistry in the end when she is talking about the only constant is change, which in this instance of rereading a book, the reader changed and now is seeing things a little different. And I think that kind of also speaks to how Elizabeth is in the show, because the world around her actually hasn't changed much, but she herself has gone through so many things and she has changed a lot, and her perspective on different things or how to handle different situations has changed from the beginning of the season to the end. Lessons in Chemistry was an amazing show and truly one of the best that I watched in 2023. The cast is amazing and the story will pull you in and have you wanting to learn more and more about these characters and see where their stories will take them. Thank you for watching my video. I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. If you haven't subscribed, please do so you can keep up to date with more of my videos. But besides that, everyone stay safe, have fun, and goodbye.